Today, we're talking with Robert Rohlfing, the CEO of Desert Mountain Energy. The timing couldn't be better. Great news coming out today. The company just signed an LOI for a joint venture to build a sodium nickel chloride battery manufacturing plant right in Roswell, New Mexico. This isn't a minor add-in to the overall DME's natural gas strategy. Their produced water expertise and ever-growing demand for power from the planned AI data center complex in Roswell ties this all together and continues with the theme of being vertically integrated. What's interesting here is that the produced water treated and the sodium and rare earth REEs recovered are used in these batteries. The gas supplying power to both water processing systems and the data center infrastructure, it all ties together. Let's talk about this a little bit more in depth with Robert, because it adds another key factor that cornerstone that ties everything together, and it looks to be a great 2026. So Robert, great to have you on. Great news today. And let's tie it all together with what's happening with Roswell and how this shapes and ties everything together.
Well, over the last year, we've had a lot of really great things happen. We finally got the plant put together to where it could separate the helium out. And then you still have the other aspects going forward. Then we had a better handle on exactly what the throughput can and should be and how to optimize it on varying levels of gas. And all the wells in the area each one produces a different volume of nat gas and percentages of helium, whether it be very ultra fractional or more. But how you get it all to work together so it's cohesive. And so we got that finally situated, and then working with the long-term for natural gas suppliers. So who do we supply gas to, and how do we maximize the rate of return on that nat gas? So we finally have gotten a number of those things straightened out. And then working with the AI data center, that really gives us a long-term partner to be purchasing gas long-term right where we're at. So it gets us away from a lot of the market fluctuation that you maybe would normally have.
It's great to see the tie-in too with New Mexico, and we'll jump into Arizona near the end here as well. But it's great to see how these things are related and integrating together with kind of developing a Southwest U.S. energy corridor. Talk about how these new batteries, how that kind of fits into the whole overall play as well.
Well, what we were looking at to try to get the water. AI data centers, it doesn't matter where you go in the U.S., they are water intensive. They require a lot of water, and they require energy. Now, whether you have to be sitting on top of a grid that can support it, which in most cases is minimal, it's iffy if you can get that in and have that important aspect covered, because again, as I've touched on in other previous press releases, data centers, the lights can't flicker, period.
Yeah,
they have to run, period. That's all there is to it. Now, when you get into how do you maintain that for short periods of time, you get into batteries longer over a number of days. If you have your own natural gas supply, it's coming out of a pipeline. Most pipelines go down for maintenance sometime during the year, once or twice during the year. So how do you get around that? So then that means the data centers have to have some type of backup, either out of the grid for power or pulling it out of an additional pipeline, or in the case of with the Roswell Information Park, we're going to build them a underground nat gas storage unit. So they will have their own nat gas supply to take care of those few days when everything, what if? And that's what they wanted. They wanted redundancy on top of redundancy on top of redundancy. And that's really where they're at with it. Now, getting back to the water aspect, everywhere you go in the U.S., there's a lot of concerns about throwing in AI data centers into an area. And everyone has a right to be concerned about water. It is. You have to have your head examined if you don't understand water is required on that. And then how do you use it? For even if you're connected to a grid, you still have a lot of the heat sourcing or for heat and cool of a data center. Well, if you go like what they're going to be using here in Roswell, then you're getting into a closed loop system. Well, it's in effect, it's a geothermal system is what they're going to be using. It still requires a lot of water. You still have a certain amount of evaporation for certain aspects of power generation and cooling. You still have to have makeup water. And then you get into how do you do that and go into a smaller area, smaller towns, or even large city, and not just totally take over the water supply. The people are there. You have to be responsible. In this area, there's a distinct lack of water, especially in the Southwest. So how do you do that realistically? Our thought was, we don't personally produce very much water. I mean, it's an average of per well, 3 gallons of water per day. And that's basically just what condensate is. So it's very minimal. Now you go south and east of us, there's a number of people out there that have a lot of water, and it becomes an issue on re-injecting it, or if they don't have a permitted disposal well, where do they go with that, in the short and long term, and the taxation that goes on it, just the handling, the cost of just re-injecting water and handling it, it affects your bottom line. So if you can, my thought was, having been a small time operator on just marginal wells in Oklahoma, and initially, I learned how to make money with that. And so water is it. So I know that in talking to the different operators out here, they could use somewhere to go with the water. Now if they have somewhere that they don't have to truck water for 2.5 hours one way, and they have some place that's within 45 minutes, and depending on what the final agreement is with the state, if not, they're not paying an 11% or 15% tax to inject the water somewhere, plus the cost to inject.
Yeah.
It trucking, everything, it all adds up. So if they're paying 18, anywhere from $14.50 to $22 per barrel of water to get rid of.
Yeah.
If you lower that to 5 or 6, they can produce more oil and gas. In most cases, more for the smaller oil operators. They can produce more. Well, who does that help? Helps the state on production taxes, helps the schools, helps the local communities, keeps more money in the local communities, which is what they need.
Yeah.
So it's not an instant gratification and you flip the switch instantly everything is better for everybody. It's not, but it's how do you work with people out there, and this is helpful. Then you take away the stress on the local water system for the cities like Roswell.
Yes.
So if you're using that water, you can reuse the produced water, because currently the laws in the state of New Mexico do not permit any kind of produced water from oil and gas operations to be used for agriculture or for community purposes. It does, however, have an exclusion that the state feels is there for industrial usage. Now, if you have a closed loop system, that water has to be totally clean, not maybe kind of sort of.
Yeah.
It has to be deionized. It actually has to be purer than water coming out of your tap. So what we're working on is we're going to get it to an almost city drinking water level, and we're going to put that in a pipeline, run it a few miles down the road to the data center plant, and they'll finish cleaning it up, and also they'll add the other stuff they need and deionize it. So it's all there for their closed loop system. Well, the next thing is, how do you do that cost effectively? Desal plants have been around for many years. That's nothing new. The efficacy of them is greatly been enhanced with the help of computers and newer type of ceramic membranes, and there's a whole series of things. It's like the one group, small company that we're working with that had ties to MIT. Now they're working on one aspect of a membrane, a ceramic membrane. There's someone else. There's a couple companies in Canada that have some excellent desal plant. Most desalinization plants, just as an overall very broad stroke, for every 100 gallons of water, you have 54 gallons of desal water coming out, and you have 46 gallons of a brine that has everything in it that you have to inject.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we don't want that. I don't want to have to it still costs to re-inject that. So it limits the number of companies that now, with the newest type of membranes and how they regenerate, you can actually get it to where you can dry this out. What does it require? Energy, cheap energy, natural gas. If we're generating the power for it, we aren't paying pipelines and everybody else. It gets back to what can I do for my shareholders on the natural gas that we are producing?
Yes.
How do I maximize that return? And getting the pipelines out of the way is the best way to do it. You eliminate all the middlemen. It goes back to being totally, fully vertically integrated. That's how large oil and gas companies got really large, fully vertically integrated. Now, so once you have that and you dry the material out, you'll basically have a whole lot of salts. To give you an idea, folks have no idea how salty is the water. Well, it can vary from almost drinking water to nasty. You could, if you put it in a pond, you can't sink it. It's almost like the Dead Sea.
Yes,
you can't
sea.
drown in it. You can't drown in it.
Yeah.
Well, so if the average weight of fresh water is 8.334 pounds per gallon, depending on where you're at in the U.S., how hard it is. But just call it 8.3 pounds or 8.4 pounds per gallon. The produced water from the oil wells down in that area average between 9.8 and 10.2. So that means you have roughly on average 1.5 pounds of salt for every gallon of water. Then you have a fractional amount on top of that, that is other types of solids. Now, there are some places that like in Arkansas, where they've looked at, and Exxon's doing, and a couple other lithium companies, they're going after the lithium because it's in tens of thousands of parts per million.
Yes. Yeah.
Here, no. You do not try to build a plant to extract 10 or 15 parts per million lithium. You're just for that. It's just not cost effective to do that.
Yeah.
However, for all that salt that's there is what do you do with that for the sodium chloride? But then all the other. The interesting thing about this area, you have rare earths, you have samarium, cerium, and a couple other little things in the platinum group. You have rhodium.
Yep.
And so there's other value to the other constituents in the water. Once you have that, and if you're trying to put that and handle a brine going down the road, you have heavy metals and you have everything. It's a nasty thing to be shipping down the road. It's hazmat.
Yep.
It costs money. And you're exposing yourself to accidents, and just insurance companies just love you when you do that. Just write us a very large check. Well, how do you get away from that? Well, you dry them, and you put it in. You dry it. You can put it in 55-gallon sealed drums, put them on a pallet, and you can ship them down the road. It's not a hazmat. It's
Nice.
a dry material. So then you can send that material to be refined out. And we don't have, I'm not worried about trying to do that. There's people who do that. You send it to them for that
Yes.
aspect. Now, getting to the batteries aspect, well, what do you do with the salt? State law, you can't throw that, you can't use it as a road salt or anything like that. So you have to maintain that. Well, what are you going to do with it? Well, put in a battery. That's why we had looked around, and this company, Tech Batteries, that we named in there, they have a sodium nickel chloride battery, and they've done testing on it, developed it, and it's not just fly-by-night testing. If you can, they have smaller versions, but what we're looking to work with them on here is to build 1 megawatt battery. Basically, picture an 18-foot shipping container.
Yeah.
That basically has salt, has sodium chloride, alumina, and nickel chloride anodes. That's it. And because the sodium nickel chloride batteries, it's not like a lithium ion battery.
Yeah.
They have a lot of, they're lighter weight, they have a lot of advantages. Problem is, if they get punctured or anything, if you start a fire with them, they actually start generating their own oxygen. And that's what makes one of the aspects that make them so hard to put out. Then you have an environmental hazmat cleanup also. With sodium nickel chloride battery, it goes into a reinforced container. They have built it, and they have gotten to where they've shot holes in it, punched holes in it, dropped it in water, dropped it from 50 feet into water, and let it sit. Nothing happens.
Yeah.
And so you can pick it up, you can do it. Now, the other thing about lithium ion batteries, at the end of their life, how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
It costs a lot of money. You do have certain hazmat. Sodium nickel chloride batteries, you separate what's in, you open it up, clean it out, reprocess everything. All the salt goes back in. You add in new alumina and new anodes and put it back together. That's it. Are they lightweight? No, that's the drawback.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to use stuff, and like where I live in Arizona, there's the major power companies that put in, and like in other places, they put in large batteries to try to help with peak loading.
Yeah.
Well, problem is those lithium ion batteries are known to have fires, and
Yes.
they have to have their own separate cooling,
Yeah.
everything. Sodium nickel chloride batteries do not have to have any cooling or heating. They are just fine in all weathers. They're fine. They're happy. They're sitting there. You don't end up years later with a hazmat problem. And so at the end of the 15 to 25 year life cycle on them, and that varies also as to how many real hard, fast drawdowns they have. They have more. They don't really have a memory per se, like early batteries did. So you get away from that, and that helps to create something that you can put them closer into housing and within cities and communities, and it's safe.
Yes.
And that's one of the biggest things in what I was looking at, how do we get everything we need for this? Well, the other thing is, I'm not going into the aluminum mining business. I'm not. I don't have to. What else do they do in Roswell? There's thousands of aircraft out there that they recycle and chew up. They pull parts, chew them up. The skin of an aircraft has most aircraft has a real thin layer of pure aluminum on the outside. Well, you'd use that. So there's materials right there. So all they have to do is import into the state is the nickel cathodes. That's it. And so you're not talking about one truckload, one transport a year handles them for the entire year.
Yes.
That's all their needs. And so you start with that, then you have good paying jobs. The other thing that you have there, and unlike where they're building a plant currently in Saxony, Germany, it's a $170 million plant. This is a real battery company. It's not a maybe kind of sort of.
Yeah.
You have more weather conditions you have to deal with. Again, it's like the AI data center. They will build them anywhere. However, they really like the Southwest, and you call it the Southwest Energy Corridor, because you have less fluctuations, huge fluctuations of humidity. And when it's more
Yes.
constant, that area is not known for tornadoes. There are occasional earthquakes are not an issue. It's seismic wise, it's quiet. What is out there is, little tremors here and there that on anything, but you don't have large things like that happening. And you have a great group of people in a small town that is growing, and they're looking to grow, and they need jobs, real jobs.
Yes.
So how do you work with this? Well, then the other thing in working with the state of New Mexico thus far, it's been beyond pleasant. It is absolutely very open-doored from the governor's office on down, and working with all the secretaries under her that she has in her cabinet. People are very open to this, and so they see, how do you use something that is a waste product, and a lot of other people see it as a waste and a problem and hazmat. Well, if you can handle this and you can get it handled, you have batteries, you have water, and you're not putting a strain on the local aquifers and everything else. And overall, that's what it's fun to be part of.
Yeah.
To actually have this idea and work this together. So it kind of, for DME, it gives us a way to what ifs, and because I don't want to be negative, but realistically, you have to try to anticipate what else can happen with economies. I'm not in charge of them. I can't control them. However, if you have data centers, if they don't do the total build out, okay, no problem. We're still going to have more nat gas. You get into the battery aspects. Well, what if, if we don't happen to have enough water coming in with enough salt? I don't think that'd be a problem. 48 miles away, there's food grade salt. I mean, it's like there's a backup to a backup.
Yes.
And as far as aluminum, there is, right down the road in El Paso, and there's an aluminum reprocessing center. So it's like everything that they need, it's right there, and they have the expertise with this. So again, it's not something that we have to directly build. We have to form the rest of the next thing is to form the rest of and define the joint venture. We will be with them on this, and then we'll be generating the power for it, supplying the nat gas. Now, one of the other things, getting back to the state and federal government, they are looking to see exactly what form of an opportunity zone we can create in conjunction. That type of stuff helps investors for long-term, for tax purposes, where the opportunities are. You're creating new job creation incentives. So there's all of these things that New Mexico wants to see. They want to see good things happening. And in our discussions thus far with the Department of Energy and Department of Commerce, they are on board. So you have state and federal and the local folks.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, okay. And since we are trying to be environmentally responsible, and it's like, let's just not pull water out of the aquifer for this.
Well,
You
that's such
know,
a big deal. Like I watch a lot of like CNBC and whatnot, and I follow all of the AI build outs, and I wonder how many of these will actually get done. Some are very forward thinking that'll involve complex nuclear developments, this, their 20-year programs. And you go, okay, that's hard for me to give a probability of that rollout because it's 20 years down the road. That's a lot of build out. But what you can do is look at other data centers that have caused issues in smaller towns with water or with energy and go, well, New Mexico and as well as the Roswell Park, as well as yourself, you're already addressing these concerns head on. And if someone isn't sure, send me an email. We'll talk about how critical the water issue is to retail residents in a home, as well as energy, because that is something where you could see where like a Microsoft had an issue because they moved in somewhere. Yes, there was new jobs, but all of a sudden energy went up dramatically. This is not the case. You get it quickly. I'm of the opinion too of AI and the data center being an existential issue that you want the US essentially to win. And the technology is there, but we need to back that up with the fastest, most stable, and cheapest energy, which is nat gas, which also, once again, puts this Roswell Information Park and Center square in the headlights of probability quite high now compared to others. Less moving parts, cheaper, right to market. You can get it done quickly. It's not controversial, and any of the controversial parts have been addressed regarding energy and water. And you've got both federal and state on side that local community sees. Oh wow, you're probably going to need a fair amount of people for the size and scope of the build out, not just right step phase 1, but phase 2, phase 3, and moving on.
And that's one of the best. It's fun to be working with people who truly want to see something. And I think there's a lot of folks out there who have a right to be, excuse me, they have a right to be concerned about what's going to happen. Is my town going to lose its, the makeup? We like our town.
Yep.
We don't want to see, I don't want to see a Phoenix, or I don't want to see whatever town I don't want to see an LA or whatever. Yeah. Well, you don't have to have that. And how can the communities maintain their own distinct identity?
Yeah.
And it's really important to the people, what we've seen with the folks in New Mexico. And they're very proud and they love their heritage and everything. And it's fun to work with people that, okay, we understand. And they've had a mix of science over the years with both Sandia and Los Alamos National Labs. And so the cooperation, we were invited to join the Joint Direct Energy Consortium. And that's, basically we're working with the feds on this.
Yes.
And that's what it is. And so who is it? Sandia National Labs in Los Alamos. But they have to have certain amounts of REEs. And
yes.
There's certain, and what we would be pulling out, it's something that's already there. Mother Nature, has already put it in a solution.
Yeah.
I don't have to use cyanide leach. I don't have to do anything.
Yes.
It's there. And instead of looking at it from the aspect of this is something really bad here, oh, it's horrible. No. How do you deal with this? Put it into a form that's easily transportable to a legitimate refining company. And so it gives value added for the company. And then it also, a lot of those rare earths will be used right there in the state. So it keeps things, and that's one of the things a lot of the folks with the state really are looking at, is how, it keeps it within their state. And you can do this. And it's a win-win for them, instead of maybe thinking, oh, well, we're always in last place, or we're at the bottom end of the pole, and we're getting hit with the stick. Here is a way, and that is one of the real, I think it's been pleasant and enjoyable. I not hoping things change, or waiting for them to change, but to have people working in government agencies that are actually they see that we're trying to, we're not
Yes.
giving it lip service. How do
Yeah.
you apply this and use the best technologies, like from companies out of Canada and out of New Zealand and out of Australia and out of the UK? You put all that together, and that's a lot more fun.
Yes, there's that full alignment with a bigger vision, which we understand very well up in Canada as well. There's some provinces that get it, that are like, listen, we want to put people to work. We want to solve these problems, and we will provide that framework. Others, not so much. Their mission isn't quite the same. So it must be a lot more fun when you have not only the feds, but the state also saying, we see where this can go. We see how it can benefit the state and our people, and the whole world in general as well. And we'd love to be a model for that. And that's a lot more fun than, say, kind of some of the issues with Arizona, where you've got different groups where you're thinking, okay, we think we've made them happy with that, but they're not as happy as we were hoping. It's a lot better whenever people are all on sign and aligned and see the best efforts that people are making.
Yeah, and it doesn't just because someone doesn't, they don't have to agree with me on every single aspect. Sure. It's not. But as far as what you're trying to do for the greater good for the greater number,
yeah,
and it's not. We're showing that it can be done without sacrificing the environment.
Yes.
And that's yes, it's possible. It's not easy. A lot of people over the years have chosen not to do that. And some people just didn't know better.
Yeah, sure.
Back in the day. And
sure.
That's the way it used to be. But as soon as you have that knowledge and you can apply it, then why not?
Yes.
If you can find a way to do it that it will stand on its own without government subsidies, so when you do get added tax breaks and that, it really helps your investors and your shareholders. So this can be a win-win for everybody.
Yes. This is great, because this is another kind of kick at the can. So it's setting up a great lot of work and things tied off in 2025 that really started to kind of speed up. Maybe just give us a quick recap of 2025, because we're ending here. It's December. And what are we looking for in 2026? Because it really seems like a lot can come together here fairly quickly in 2026. I'll let you kind of give us that that wrap up for everything that's happened.
In 2026, we will, obviously putting this together is not, you don't snap your fingers and make it happen. But that will be kind of a number of pieces coming together for additional natural gas wells and other natural gas wells that are underproducing or other people haven't operated or had a market for it. So it wasn't cost effective for them. So we'll be acquiring other things. So there'll be acquisitions I could appropriately. Then working on the build out for the initial power generation and stuff for the AI data. Then also how do you bring in for the water and also for the battery. So it's how do you bring it together and really build out a staff, and for the funding required to do that, obviously, and how by bringing in specific partners, like for the water treatment and for the batteries, people who are already successful in getting money in for their aspects, and how do you put that together? And so you have the additional things from the state and feds to throw in, and it's going to be a fun 26. It'll be like this year has already flown by. It's hard to believe, Andrew. It's December 2nd, and the end of the year is upon us. And next year, it's like, lace them up. We're going to be running.
Excellent.
Skating.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, thanks so much for this update. It's great to see. We're going to keep our eyes open, obviously, for 2026, because there's so much that's being put to rest that looks great. The revival is back. There's lots of different initiatives that are being undertaken that are high probability events, and it's great to see that these pushback items, they're dealt with. And once again, reach out to me if you want to know about closed loop systems for water. That's critical when you're looking at any data center as well. Happy to go through that. That's too big a conversation for this interview. But all of these things have been met. And that's the things that we like to look at whenever we look at the probability of a data center going in. And it's looking very good. And we're very excited to see what directions finalize, materialize, the step-by-steps in each of these projects as they move forward, and to see what happens in Arizona as well in 2026.
Yep. Thank you, Andrew. You have a great day.
All the best. Take care.
Bye.